February 23, 1945. Private First Class Tadashi Yamamoto crouched inside a bunker beneath Mount Suribachi and wrote words he knew could cost him his life. He had just watched Marines charge directly into machine gun fire, losing half their number but continuing forward as if death meant nothing. A wounded Marine had thrown himself onto a grenade to protect his squad, then kept fighting until his body finally failed. Everything Yamamoto had been taught about American weakness was collapsing around him. 21,000 Japanese defenders had prepared to face soft enemies, but instead encountered soldiers who advanced relentlessly despite catastrophic losses. The reality of Iwo Jima shattered years of propaganda. Japanese confidence had already begun to break during the Guadalcanal campaign in 1942. Corporal Hide Takahashi wrote that Americans who landed there fought with a resolve unseen in China. Marines did not retreat when surrounded, and did not surrender when their situation became hopeless. Most shocking for Japanese doctrine, they fought at night with ferocity instead of fear. When Lieutenant Fukudome launched a night counterattack, he discovered Marines waiting in perfectly arranged fire positions. His company suffered devastating losses, while Marines suffered only a few casualties. Across Guadalcanal, the pattern repeated. Banzai charges that had overwhelmed Chinese forces were absorbed by Marines who fought hand-to-hand when overrun. Sergeant Kenji Matsumoto described seeing a Marine fire a machine gun even after both his legs were shattered. When the Marine finally died, his assistant immediately took over the weapon. Japanese soldiers realized Marines valued comradeship and duty in ways far different from the propaganda that painted Americans as soft individualists. These experiences began dismantling the belief that Americans lacked discipline or determination. Japanese intelligence soon began studying Marine training to understand this unexpected resilience. Yamamoto himself heard in 1943 how captured Marines described training that broke recruits down psychologically and rebuilt them into something new. Japanese officers were disturbed to learn that Marines embraced a warrior ethos, similar to Bushido, but backed by far superior equipment and industrial power. This combination created fighters willing to die like Japanese soldiers but supported by vast resources. The belief that spirit alone could overcome material strength began to crumble. Tarawa delivered another shock. Rear Admiral Shibasaki had claimed no force could take his fortifications in 100 years. But the 2nd Marine Division destroyed them in 76 hours. Survivors recalled Marines advancing wave after wave despite tremendous losses, eventually reaching bunkers with flamethrowers and demolitions. The mathematics stunned Japanese analysts. Both sides suffered enormous casualties, but Marines still took the objective on schedule. The willingness to endure such losses contradicted all expectations of American behavior. Documents captured on Saipan described Marines as shock troops, with unwavering commitment to objectives. Reports noted that Marines refused to retreat even when tactically disadvantaged, preferring to counterattack immediately. Japanese commanders observed that Marine effectiveness remained intact despite high casualties, unlike Japanese units that degraded quickly. Captain Yoshio Kobayashi concluded Marines advanced aggressively regardless of losses, something Japan had never faced before. Their determination challenged fundamental Japanese assumptions about American soldiers. The more Japan studied Marines, the more alarming the picture became. On Peleliu, Lieutenant Colonel Kunio Nakagawa learned that every assumption about Marine behavior was wrong. He expected them to pause after landing, as most armies did, but by nightfall they controlled half the airfield. His defense plan collapsed because Marines advanced with what he called irrational commitment, ignoring conventional calculations of risk. Japanese forces could not reposition or reinforce quickly enough to counter such speed. Marines exploited weaknesses without waiting for senior officers. Their adaptability provided both psychological and tactical superiority. On Bujangville, Sergeant Matsumoto witnessed a Marine platoon charge 3 bunkers across open ground swept by machine gun fire. Japanese doctrine required artillery preparation, but the Marine lieutenant ordered the assault after seconds of observation. 7 Marines fell immediately, but the survivors destroyed all 3 bunkers within minutes. They accepted losses to maintain momentum. Japanese officers were horrified by such efficiency because their doctrine valued lives within strategic limits. Marines treated casualties as the price of speed rather than deterrence. This approach created impossible dilemmas for Japanese commanders. Defending lightly meant losing positions quickly, reinforcing men weakening other areas. Every decision resulted in attrition Japan could not sustain. Major Yoshitaka Huri later explained that Marines absorbed casualties at rates no other army could endure. Japanese planners believed 10,000 American casualties would halt an invasion for a weak Marines, suffered that in the first week, and did not slow. This realization destroyed faith in Japan's defensive calculations. Marine logistics added to this despair. Second Lieutenant Seo Yamamoto expected exhausted, undersupplied Marines days after landing on Saipan. Instead, he found them eating hot meals, receiving ammunition by truck, and being treated in fully staffed medical tents. Japanese forces had no resupply, little food, and no medical care. Yamamoto concluded Japan could never win a prolonged battle under such conditions. His conclusions spread through the ranks, weakening morale everywhere. Peleliu reinforced these fears when Nakagawa's defenders inflicted more than 10,000 casualties on American forces, but still could not halt them. Marine divisions rotated out, replenished, and returned, something Japan could not replicate. Japanese forces dwindled permanently due to lack of supplies and reinforcements. The arithmetic favored the United States with brutal finality. Every American loss was temporary. Every Japanese loss permanent. Japan was fighting a war it could not sustain. By mid-1944, Japanese high command recognized Marines could only be delayed, not defeated. Capture directives instructed garrisons to hold as long as possible to buy time for the Empire. These orders acknowledged that every position would eventually fall, and defenders should expect to die. Commanders were told to build layered defenses and sacrifice themselves for time rather than victory. This marked a shift from aggressive strategy to desperate attrition. Japan's best hope was slowing Marines, not stopping them. For many Japanese soldiers, the psychological burden became crushing. Private Tadashi Ogawa, one of the few survivors from Tarawa, described realizing the war was lost after seeing Marines continue attacking despite horrific casualties. Japan had hoped to make invasions too costly to continue, but Marines advanced without hesitation. Ogawa wrote that facing an enemy willing to endure unlimited losses left defenders hopeless. The belief that spirit alone could shape outcomes collapsed. Marines proved cost was irrelevant to American resolve. General Tadamichi Kuribayashi prepared the defenses of Iwo Jima with full awareness of Marine capability. He rejected beach defenses entirely, understanding Marines had too much firepower. Instead, he built an underground fortress of more than 1,500 positions connected by tunnels. Every inch of the island was presided for mortars and artillery. His strategy aimed to slow Marines, not defeat them. Even he accepted the island would fall. In a letter to his wife, Kuribayashi wrote that Iwo Jima was a mathematical problem with only one outcome. Marines would land with overwhelming numbers, supported by complete naval and air superiority. They would bring unlimited supplies and replacements. Japan had no reinforcements and no escape. The best he could hope for was to make Americans bleed for every meter. His predictions proved accurate. When Marines landed on February 19, 1945, Kuribayashi's defenses performed exactly as intended. Naval bombardment barely affected the tunnels, and precise artillery tore through the first waves. Machine guns turned the beaches into slaughter grounds. But the Marines did something Kuribayashi had not anticipated. They advanced into the fire instead of withdrawing. Their refusal to pause disrupted the timing of all Japanese fire plans. The battle immediately shifted out of Japanese control. Yamamoto witnessed a flamethrower team approach a bunker near his position. The operator was killed, but his assistant picked up the weapon before being shot. A third Marine fell, and a fourth continued despite severe wounds. By the time the weapon emptied, Marine demolition teams had reached the entrance. The position collapsed moments later. Yamamoto recorded 30 similar incidents in the first hour. The defenders were stunned by Marines' persistence under intense fire. Positions expected to hold 4 days fell within hours. Marines crawled over the bodies of fallen comrades, refusing to slow their advance. Defenders realized they were facing soldiers who viewed casualties as the cost of progress. Many wrote that Marines possessed a determination they believed unique to Japan. Their confidence in Japan's moral superiority disintegrated. Marines suffered catastrophic losses in the first week, yet advanced without diminished intensity. They fought through volcanic ash, smoke, and ambushes, hidden in tunnels. Japanese defenders could not replace their dead or wounded, while Marines received fresh troops and endless supplies. Engineers sealed tunnels, tanks blasted cave mouths, and flamethrowers burned out positions. Every cave became a separate, brutal fight. The constant pressure exhausted defenders. By early March, Kurabayashi's defensive lines collapsed one after another. Marines destroyed fortified positions designed to withstand massive bombardment. Flame tanks devastated cave entrances. Infantry cleared interiors with grenades, and explosives sealed tunnel networks. Japanese soldiers fought to the last man with dwindling supplies and no reinforcements. Many positions fell only after every defender had died. The underground fortress became a graveyard. Diaries from the defenders reveal growing despair. Soldiers wrote they had never seen an enemy advance with such indifference to casualties. One reported burning a Marine with a flamethrower, only to be overrun by another seconds later. Nothing they did slowed the advance. American morale remained unshaken, despite horrific losses. This broke Japanese psychological resistance. In the final phase, Marines forced their way into the northern defenses, where the last tunnels remained. Close-quarters combat in darkness made every meter a struggle. Demolition teams sealed off escape routes to isolate pockets of resistance. Japanese troops fought with unbroken resolve, but could only delay defeat. Kurabayashi continued directing defenses until his position was nearly overrun. He chose to die in combat, and his body was never conclusively identified. By March 26th, the battle ended. Of 21,000 Japanese defenders, nearly all were killed, with about 1,000 captured alive, most gravely wounded. Marines suffered over 26,000 casualties, but remained operational and were rebuilt within weeks. Japanese analysts later realized their forces could never regenerate in the same way. The contrast in manpower and logistics made defeat certain. Iwo Jima proved the limits of courage against industrial power. Post-war interrogations revealed profound disillusionment among survivors. Many admitted everything they had been taught about American weakness was false. They felt betrayed by propaganda that insisted Americans were soft. Former prisoners described receiving more humane treatment from Marines than from their own officers. Food, water, and medical care were provided without hesitation. These experiences forced many to reevaluate their beliefs entirely. Japanese veterans universally expressed respect for Marine fighting ability. They admired Marine discipline, coordination, and adaptability under extreme conditions. Many noted Marines fought with a spiritual intensity similar to Bushido, but supported by superior weapons and unlimited supplies. This combination made them uniquely formidable. Japan had spirit but lacked resources. Marines possessed both. Japan's long-held doctrine that spirit conquers material collapsed under battlefield conditions. Japanese troops saw Marines endure tropical disease, fight in suffocating heat, and withstand artillery bombardment without faltering. They witnessed perfectly coordinated fire from artillery, aircraft, and naval guns. They saw wounded Marines treated and returned to combat while their own wounded died. Courage without support proved insufficient. Sacrifice alone could not stop an industrial nation. Kurabayashi's final messages became the most accurate Japanese analysis of the war. He noted Marines had superior training, overwhelming firepower, and endless reinforcements. Their courage matched Japan's, but with far greater support. He warned no Japanese defense could withstand such a combination. His words captured the essence of Japan's strategic collapse. Everything he predicted came true. Japanese historians after the war unanimously concluded Marines were the most feared enemy in the Pacific. Marines combined Bushido-like resolve with unmatched industrial might. They accepted extreme casualties to achieve objectives. They coordinated firepower with unprecedented speed. They replaced losses faster than Japan could inflict them. Once committed, they were unstoppable. This reputation was built across Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Peleliu, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Marines faced fortified positions, brutal climates, and staggering casualties but seized every objective. They adapted quickly to evolving Japanese defenses and tactical changes. Their use of tanks, artillery, naval gunfire, and air support made them the ultimate assault force. Battles that would have broken other armies only hardened their resolve. Japanese troops learned that once Marines landed, the outcome was inevitable. Private Yamamoto's final diary entry captured the truth Japanese soldiers learned in blood. He wrote that Marines would win not because they were braver, but because their nation gave them everything required to win. He realized Japanese soldiers were samurai with rifles facing an enemy equipped for total war. He concluded Japan never had a chance. His death marked another step in a war already lost. The Marines who cleared Yamamoto's bunker moved on immediately to the next target. They repeated the same grim routine across the island until every position fell. Their actions reflected the full power of American industry and will. They showed what happened when national resolve and industrial capability aligned. Their advance across the Pacific proved unstoppable. It was a truth Japanese soldiers understood only in their final moments.